A reminder that 1 week from today you've got your final exam, and I've put it in bold here, bring a computer. I mentioned previously that there's going to be an Excel question on the exam, so we're going to follow the same approach as we have previously, where you'll solve your Excel question, upload your Excel file to MU Online, and you'll need a computer to be able to do that. If you don't have a computer, of course, the library checks them out. But you should try and make arrangements for that early, because I think that they have an increased demand during finals week. And if you absolutely can't find any computer and have no other choice, then let me know and I can loan you one of the beaters that we've got in the other building. All right, so bring a computer. I'll provide the equation sheet, and the equation sheet I'm going to provide is very similar to the one I've handed out today. It's got these formulas on it. It'll also have a couple of factor tables in the likely event that you have questions that use those. And in addition to all that, you can also bring a page of your own notes, equations, and so on. So any questions about the final exam? So the formula sheet that I'll provide will look like that. Some people ask, how should you study for the exam? And of course, you've got 15 homework assignments you've done over the course of the semester, and so you can review the problems that you've solved there. You've got more than 30 in-class exercises that we completed together, so you have those, and the solutions, in case you missed a class, the solutions are available on the recorded lectures. I really don't recommend listening to those again, although I've had students who've tried it, listening before the exam to all of the lectures over again. It just seems like a recipe for insanity. But one thing you might consider is this schedule is posted on MU Online, and I handed it out at the beginning of the semester, that shows day by day what our topic was. And if you can look at each topic and would be able to write a short paragraph describing the main idea of that topic or what kind of problems you can solve. So if you could just remember what it is and what it means and what's the important stuff, then that probably means that you know the material pretty well. But if you can't independently describe the concepts for a lecture, that may mean that that one's worth revisiting. So one thing I will point out about YouTube is you can watch the videos at double speed. Like the little gear icon that it's the lower right-hand side of the screen, you can change the speed that you watch a lecture, so you can power through those quickly if you do need to review one of them. And of course, you know, it's the problem solving that is important for the majority of the points, but you will have some concept questions on this exam. There will be more time for this exam than there's been in the past, which I think some people will enjoy. But any questions before we start the last of the concept reviews that we are going to have? All right. These are just a couple of key things I wanted to bring to your mind before I give you the concept inventory, which is the main thing I'd like to do for today. I think that 30 minutes would be more than enough to do the concept inventory, and I hope to give you even more than that. So, unrecovered investment balance. This is something that you actually solved for using Excel year by year over time, and then it was something we looked at a graph of over time. And unrecovered investment balance was on the y-axis of that graph. So what it is, when you make an investment, an initial outlay of cash, then that's an amount that you don't have back to you yet. And when you're calculating the unrecovered investment balance, it's not simply subtracting the amount of revenue that you've received each year. What you have to subtract out of that is the amount that's lost to interest, and then the amount that you are giving back to the bank to pay for the financing for the project. Once that's aside, then it brings down the unrecovered investment balance by the remainder amount. So if you look back through your notes at the spreadsheet where we calculated unrecovered investment balance, you'll realize that we had one column for principal and one column for interest. And so the idea here is that it takes a certain number of years until you've broken even on a project. And unrecovered investment balance can be used in order to identify the break-even time. Another one of the ideas that I wanted to refresh in your mind was in cost estimation. So who's willing to take a stab at explaining some differences between a bottom-up cost estimate and a top-down cost estimate? Jared, do you remember what a bottom-up cost estimate is? No? Yes, please.
Bottom-up is where you take all of the costs that it would take to produce an item.
Yeah.
And then figure out how much you want to sell that for.
Exactly.
Down to be like, I've run this at this price, and then take all of the pieces and put it to that.
Okay.
Cost on that.
Very good. So what he said is, with the bottom up, you're looking at the price of each component to tell you how much you should charge for an item. So the difference between the two is where the price comes from. In a bottom up, your selling price is determined by the cost of the components. In a top-down estimate, the selling price is based on the market, what similar items are being sold for. And once you know that price, then you take it and you sort of allocate the amount into categories. You figure out how much you can afford to budget for the processor or how much you can afford to budget for the screen based on the fact that you need to achieve a $99 price point, something like that. So one thing that I'll emphasize to you is that in questions like this where I mention two things, it's not enough just to define both of them. Explain the differences doesn't mean define bottom up and define top down. Explain the differences means I want you to compare and contrast and find out like what's the key thing that differentiates one from the other. So if you get similar questions where there are two things that somehow are different, focus on the differences rather than merely defining both. You can define both, but then go on to explain how they differ. The factor method. What's the main idea of the factor method? Andrew? Yes, the factor method. Don't remember it? It's another cost estimation technique. Any ideas? I thought I saw a glimmer of recognition over here. No? Oh, I thought you were about to answer. Oh man, this exam's going to be a slaughter. Unless you study, which I bet you will. Any ideas over here? The factor method? Do you remember I told you a story about going to a restaurant in Dubai? What was the idea there? Yeah, go ahead.
You take the prices of smaller items,
Yes.
and then you relate that to what a larger cost would be. So water, if it's $10,
Yeah,
you do that by a factor of 10.
exactly. Exactly, yep. So it's the factor method is the idea that you can predict the entire item or the entire project based on knowing some key indicators. So if you know that for a building like this, the foundation is usually about 30% of the finished cost of the building, and you just had someone give you a quote of a $1 million foundation, then that would help you to scale up and get a very broad estimate of what the finished product might cost. All right. Finally, what I asked you to draw a picture. In the past couple of class periods, I've been showing you a picture and asking you to tell me a story about it. In other words, to explain the picture. So now, what if I just said, I want you to draw a picture that compares and contrasts SL depreciation with DB depreciation? So the first challenge of this question is figuring out what does SL and DB mean. Straight line for SL. What about DB? Declining balance. Okay, so the name SL gives you a clue of what the figure should look like, right? Should be a straight line. Now, you definitely want to put axis labels on whatever picture you drew for me. So on the x-axis, you'd want to have time in years. And in the y-axis, you'd want to have book value. And it wouldn't just dollars wouldn't be enough. Dollars is the units, and that's great that you put the units. But what these depreciation methods show over time is how the book value of an item is declining. And so dB would be a curved figure. I'll draw it here on the screen, on the whiteboard. So here's time, and we could give that years. And here's book value. And the units there are dollars. And our SL line is a straight line. And then declining balance, dB, in this case, reaches some terminal salvage value that it doesn't get lower than. So that's the drawing I'd hope to see. That would be a full credit drawing. All right, I haven't prepared the exam for Friday, so I can't tell you what's on it and what's not on it. In a way, I like it to be a mystery while I'm giving, even to myself, when I'm giving you these hints, so that I don't want to deliberately exclude something that we've talked about, so I'll assemble it from a series of exams I gave last year that you don't have any access to. So, all right. Any questions before we move on? Okay, well, then let's begin this concept inventory. Remember, this is the chance you have to improve your quiz average. It can only help you. It won't hurt you. Unless you get a paper cut. Or hurt your feelings, maybe. All right, so when you're done, you can just bring it up to the front and set it on this table here. And then you're free to leave. It's been a great semester. I've enjoyed teaching you. And I'll see you next Friday for the final exam.